Hey, it's Lynn Galadner, and this is the Make Meaning podcast. I'm founder of the Your People marketing and PR agency, and I lead the Make Meaning movement, a platform that helps purpose-driven visionaries and leaders do business with meaning. On this podcast, you'll hear stories of how people dare to take chances to live the life they want, with meaningful work and purposeful days. There are many ways to fill your life with meaning. Join us at makemeaning.org to learn more. Now, on to the show. Today on the Make Meaning podcast, I have the honor of speaking with Dr. Sibrina Collins, Executive Director of the Marburger STEM Center at Lawrence Tech University. Dr. Collins is a chemist who is passionate about promoting STEM education and increasing inclusion and diversity in STEM fields. In her career, she has served as Director of Education for the Charles H. Wright Museum of African American History in Detroit and on the faculty of Claflin University and the College of Worcester. Welcome to the Make Meaning podcast.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me, and I'm really thankful for this opportunity.
Well, after doing my research about you and reading your bio and everything that you've accomplished, which is so impressive, I feel like we should have an all-day episode about you because there's just so much I want to ask you.
Thank you.
I'll try to contain it to our time frame, but I just am really impressed. And so, let's start with, I love your passion for STEM education and making it relatable to students who might not otherwise choose more scientific or technical paths. And I know your journey to this career had a very circuitous route. Tell us how you first became interested in following a STEM path yourself.
Oh, thank you. That's a great question. And so my chemistry journey actually began as a community college student. I was enrolled at Highland Park Community College, which is now closed in Michigan. Mm-hmm. And my mother, Nancy, was a secretary in the nursing department. So I was able to take advantage of the tuition benefit offered to employees.
That's so smart. That's so lucky.
Yeah. So I always tell students, if you could earn a college degree for free, do it.
Yes.
And so I enrolled in a chemistry class for non-science majors. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was extremely easy. Mm-hmm. I earned an A in the course. And I said, if this is all there is to chemistry, I will just be a chemist. So I had this, so seriously, and I had this confidence that I could do the work. And actually, so my career goal at the time was to get my bachelor's degree and work as a chemist in my hometown of Detroit. And, so I earned my bachelor's degree in chemistry from Wayne State, go Warriors. And then earned my PhD in inorganic chemistry from The Ohio State University. Okay. Yeah, I grew up in Michigan, attended Ohio State. Don't judge me.
I'm going to judge. I went to Michigan. I'm so sorry.
So as a result of that, I pursued the PhD because I wanted to be of service to others, be a chemistry professor. And I actually had the opportunity to do that, being a chemistry professor at two wonderful institutions, Claflin University and HBCU mm-hmm. in South Carolina, mm-hmm. and then the College of Worcester in Ohio. Mm-hmm. But while I was on the faculty at the College of Worcester, I was denied tenure, which is kind of the worst thing that can happen to you, as a professor. Yeah. And so at that point, I had to really think about the meaning of my life, you know what I mean? And, what kind of impact did I want to make in the community and in the world? Mm-hmm. And so I was able to get past that career setback mm-hmm. Because of support of friends and family mm-hmm. and a group of friends that I refer to as my personal board of directors, my BOD.
I love that. That is so amazing.
And so it's important that you have a supportive team around you when you're going through some challenges. Yeah. And so as a result of that, I ended up coming back home to Detroit. It was director of education at the Charles H. Wright Museum. Mm-hmm. But I miss being in an academic environment, with the opportunity for my current role as executive director of the Marburger STEM Center at Lawrence Tech, mm-hmm. when they were advertising for it, I felt like that position was tailor-made for me. Mm-hmm. And so on July 1st, I'll be celebrating my 4-year anniversary. So that's kind of my journey in a nutshell.
There's so much to unpack there, and there are several things that I want to ask you. But I want to start in a very simple place because, I work with so many education clients in my public relations and marketing work that I almost take for granted that people understand what STEM means. So I'm just going to ask you, for our listeners who may not, could you briefly explain what STEM stands for and why we have a special focus on this course of study?
Well, so STEM, so that acronym is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And
Mm-hmm.
it's not one specific field, right? So I think a lot of times people say STEM and they just think one thing, but
Yeah.
it's a number of different disciplines. And there's a lot of focus on STEM. For one thing, STEM really does drive our economy.
Right.
And if you think about the fact that all your electronic devices such as cell phones and laptops, they all require a battery. That's STEM technology.
Sure.
Right there. And so it's so important to our economy, but we need to make sure that we have a robust pipeline, a talent pipeline to continue to fill these roles. And so
Yeah.
that's why it's so important, to encourage young people to pursue these fields. I mean, personally, I believe everybody should be a chemist, but I know that's not going to happen. But,
Yes.
I really think we're still at the stage where, as educators, we have to do a better job of showing students how STEM impacts their daily lives. And it's the messaging, because if you think about, the fact that, we oftentimes young people are told to be a lawyer or a medical doctor
Mm-hmm.
because that's what their families know. And
Right.
you can see how those disciplines make a direct impact on the community. We
Yeah.
haven't necessarily done that very well, I think, with the STEM disciplines, and we need to do a better job of that.
Well, you're speaking to my heart because I'm all about words and messaging, and it really does change the conversation when you're really clear and articulate in what is happening, and and what the options are. And I just think that it's super important to share with young people what the options are, what different careers are out there, and also tie into their talents and interests. Because I think when we're younger, we don't know how things we enjoy doing, things that come easy to us, things that we're talented at, can translate into careers where we can build our lives and build income and that kind of thing. And so, what are some of the barriers that you see to bringing more girls and women and people of color into STEM fields? And I want to know how you're trying to remove those barriers to increase access.
Yeah, so that's a great question. And, I think one of the biggest barriers is that, sometimes lack of role models. Young
Yeah.
people need
Yeah.
to see people that look like them doing STEM, and
Yes.
that's important. But, girls, for some odd reason, somewhere around the fourth or fifth grade, once they hit middle school, they're not as interested
Hmm.
in STEM anymore. And
Hmm.
that has to do with the messages they're getting in the classroom.
Right.
Sometimes, unfortunately, parents may encourage their boys,
Hmm.
to pursue a STEM pathway and
Hmm.
another pathway for girls. I think
Hmm.
that's part of it.
Hmm.
So it's educating the parents and
Hmm.
also this messaging piece. But also, for example, at Lawrence Tech,
Hmm.
our Department of Biomedical Engineering, we have like a really good 50-50 women and men
Hmm.
pursuing undergraduate degrees in biomedical engineering. And
Wow.
what's interesting about that is you can see how, because it combines medicine and engineering. And
Sure.
I think women, we tend to focus on things where we can see immediately, okay, if I do that, that's how I'm going to make a difference in the world, and
Yeah.
I think that's the key.
And you spoke about, there are so many everyday things that we don't think about are actually STEM fields. Like, for example, cosmetics
Right.
and, the cell phones we use all the time, the video gaming, just different things that we all use in our lives on a daily basis. And so, I mean, even frankly, cooking and baking is chemistry. It's so, what are some of the innovative programs that you're doing at Lawrence Tech as ways to bring, high school, middle school students in, or even to see STEM in a different light, like with cosmetics, for example?
Well, no, that's a great question. One of the things, there are a couple of things that we've done. So we have, for example, collaborated with the women of AT&T
Mm-hmm.
and for their Girls and Futures Technology Day.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been doing that for the past 3 years. And the first year we did it, we had one of our STEM ambassadors lead a workshop on cosmetic chemistry where the girls made their own lip balm.
Wow.
Using homemade products, and it was a big hit. And that's a way to get, girls interested. And it wasn't just the girls; their mothers were also excited about doing that. So when you're able to do that type of programming, and it's something that girls can do with their mothers, that's a great way to engage. But other things that we've done, like, for example, a couple of years ago when the movie Black Panther was released,
Right.
So I prior to going to the movies, I was never a Marvel Comics fan.
Right.
But my sister encouraged me to go see it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm watching this movie and I enjoyed it. I'm in the movie theater with my two of my cousins.
Uh-huh.
And it occurred to me that the whole focus of the movie was really about this fictional element, vibranium. And as a chemist,
Yeah.
I can't shut off my chemistry brain. So the entire time I'm watching this movie, I keep saying to myself, okay, if the element were real, where would it be on the periodic table? And I couldn't stop thinking about that question.
Mm-hmm.
That's what researchers do. And
Uh-huh.
I go home that night and I start crafting what I thought this paper would look like. I wanted to write a paper about it.
Okay.
And I, sent an email to one of my colleagues teaching in the Department of Natural Sciences.
Mm-hmm.
I said, hey, have you seen this movie? And can you ask this as a bonus question on your next exam? And she did. We found out who the Marvel comic fans were in the department. Used some of the student responses to craft this paper, and it was accepted for publication back in 2018, so a couple of years ago.
Okay.
And we have used that paper really for a number of different engagement activities. Like we have designed a workshop specifically for middle school students and high school students where they work in teams to have, engage in evidence-based arguments on where they think the elements should be in the periodic table. And what's nice about that is that we also, whenever we do these workshops, you always have groups of students that are really have this wonderful artistic ability.
Sure.
So we have the artists working with these students, and they present these amazing posters as a gallery walk. And so we've done those kinds of things, and it's been a lot of fun. We followed up with another paper, which was more hands-on in the laboratory, what Black Panther can teach us about transition metal chemistry. And transition metals are those elements in the middle of the periodic table, and more hands-on types of activities. We've since expanded it to include connections to the novel Frankenstein, which in 2018 Mary Shelley's novel was 200 years old. So there was a lot of interest because of that anniversary.
Yeah.
And so, but how are you going to make a 200-year-old novel relevant to a high school student? So the way you do that is you use their experiences. And so we collaborated with faculty at Lawrence Tech in the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences and Communication, where there was a seminar lecture series, Humanity plus Technology. And we had about 90 high school students from a local high school attend. And they were all enrolled in an AP literature course where they were required to read Frankenstein. So they came on our campus. We had a faculty panel. And one of the panelists, Dr. Eric Meyer, who teaches in the biomedical engineering department, started making connections to Frankenstein and the Avengers movie. And the students really were connected. They really resonated with that. And so I had mentioned to the students, if they thought that the relationship between Frankenstein and his creature in the novel somehow mirrored or aligned with the relationship between Black Panther and Eric Killmonger in the movie. And they were like, yes, they were both abandoned by their communities, So if you can find ways like that, to engage the students, I think that's a wonderful, wonderful approach.
Well, and that paper too, which I love. I mean, Black Panther was phenomenal. And when I read that you were brainstorming, where would this element appear in the periodic table? I just loved that. I mean, I'm a writer, so it didn't occur to me when I was watching the movie, but I was looking more at the storytelling. But apparently you got a lot of media coverage out of that, and your social post about it went viral too. I mean, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, what was interesting, because honestly, I was a little reluctant to submit the paper for manuscript for publication because I wasn't sure if how the editor would respond to it.
Sure.
But they submitted it for peer review, and we got great reviews. And then I shared it on Twitter. And it kind of exploded to my surprise.
Wow.
And there were a number of folks giving us kudos. But what was interesting is that the chemistry faculty, they started sharing other chemistry concepts that I wasn't thinking about, at the time.
Sure.
So maybe we can connect it to material science, or, some of these other areas. And it occurred to me that you can really build an entire curriculum, around these films. And the thing is, because you just want to find something to be able to connect with your students in the classroom. They just need a hook, and that will keep them interested. And so we were interviewed by Wired, which was a lot of fun. And we got a shout out in Bloomberg Opinion.
Oh, wow.
We weren't interviewed for that, but the author was writing an article about the Oscars. And at the end, because Black Panther didn't win for Best Picture, but the author made a comment about our paper and how basically Black Panther may not have won Best Picture, but it did win in terms of teaching young people about the periodic table. Yeah. So I thought that was pretty awesome.
That is pretty awesome. Well, kudos to you. I love hearing this. And, I want to double back a little bit to something you had said about when you were denied tenure and having your personal board of directors. And so, we're doing this interview at a time when we are enduring the COVID-19 pandemic. There's a lot of uncertainty, a lot of unknowns. Many people in many cities across America and around the world have lost work or might be on hold, furloughed, laid off, whatever it is. And it's sort of a time of there's a lot of fear and anxiety. There are a lot of unknowns. We just don't know when this will end and what the world will look like. What will our work look like? So for those people listening who are having to pause, whether they're choosing to or they're forced to, and maybe pivot, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about how you digested that denial and then turned it into an opportunity. And then I really want to talk about your personal board of directors after that. So just, maybe a little bit of a pep talk for our listeners about how sometimes a disappointment can lead to, a whole new path or a whole new opportunity.
No, that's a great question. And obviously going through a tenure denial or career setback, or if you're denied a promotion or whatever, is difficult. Sure. And you have to figure out a way to move forward. And so it's okay. I think it's perfectly fine to be angry or upset or hurt or disappointed. That's a natural human reaction. Sure. But what's your next step going to be after you get past those emotions? You have to have a plan. And I recall one day, because, when I was dealing with this, and one of my friends from my board of directors called me, and she asked me what I was doing. And I said, I'm sitting here watching Young and the Restless. I used to love that soap opera. So we were on spring break at the time. Okay. And she said, turn off the TV. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to go look at the comments from your tenure packet and search for the positives in there. Okay. And I said, okay. So that's what I did. I started looking through it, and there was a lot of good stuff in there. It was a lot of good stuff in there, and particularly with my scholarship, and the articles that I was publishing and what I was doing in the community and those kinds of things. And so it occurred to me that the next role, pursue, I had to focus on STEM education and diversity in STEM, because those are the things that I'm so passionate about.
Sure.
And so I basically use that negative experience to really guide me on my next career path. And you're absolutely right. When one door is closed, it may seem like, oh, how am I going to go on? This is the end of the world. It's actually putting you in a direction that you should be going.
Absolutely. It's interesting because circumstances are really neither good nor bad. They just happen.
Right.
And then we put a judgment on it, and our emotions or feelings lead to, the next steps. And so we can sit there and spiral and decide, this is terrible. It affects my self-worth, and I'm choosing that path. Or we can say, where's the open door here? Where's the other path? And I really applaud you for, I can't even imagine how that must have felt. It must have been devastating. And after all your hard work and everything, but you've built such an amazing path. And it's like, even beyond being a chemist, which you are, but, having this purpose and this mission is so meaningful and far reaching. Who knows how many girls and women and people of color you're inspiring by being a leader like this and bringing them into fields that basically touch every detail of our lives. It's just phenomenal.
Thank you. One of my mentors told me that she thinks my superpower is trying to inspire the next generation. I said, I'll take that. That'll be my,
I love it.
That'll be my superpower.
So let's talk about this board of directors. So I was fascinated when I read about it, and then you've mentioned it already in this interview. And so tell me a little bit about your personal board of directors and how this came to be, and how this, what role they play in your life and your work.
Oh, absolutely. So these are a group of amazing young women. We all have degrees in chemistry or chemical engineering. We all attended Big 10 universities. And honestly, the way we met is because of an organization called NOBICHE, so National Organization for the Professional Advancement of Black Chemists and Chemical Engineers. Wow. And so, I had an opportunity to present an oral presentation, at one of these conferences. And you end up meeting and connecting with people just like yourselves, pursuing pursuing a degree in a pathway in chemistry or chemical engineering. So we have been friends for over 20 years, 20, 25 years. And basically, what's nice about it, because we all genuinely love and like each other, which is obviously important, but, we provide each other needed support when we're going through difficult career challenges. But we also celebrate the milestones and the highs, when we're able to make some achievements. And so, to folks that are listening, it's particularly young people, when you attend these conferences and you're networking, this is an opportunity for you to connect with a number of individuals. And, and it's also important when you think about mentoring, so we do kind of this peer mentoring with each other, but it's also important that you have mentors outside of your department or outside of your institution, because they can give you a perspective that, on a specific situation that you may not see. And I love these ladies a whole lot, and they have meant so much personally and professionally.
That's awesome. Well, that's great. And it made me think, because I do have mentors and who've become friends and I turn to when I need their wisdom. And I've met them at all different ways, a lot of times at conferences, come to think about it. But building those relationships is priceless. And it's really one of the ways that we learn. And then we learn how to give back by doing that for others. And so, if ever somebody says, hey, can my nephew or my neighbor call you about something in your field? The answer is yes. You have to be there to share your wisdom and knowledge, and then it makes everybody else stronger.
Yeah. And I absolutely believe that. And I think, we all have a responsibility to tell some of our testimony, you know what I mean, to help other people. You don't have to tell all of your personal business to help somebody. You know, you could share, okay, I went through this, you know, and you share that, and that might help somebody else that's going through something difficult. And they could say, well, if Sibrina went through it and she got past it, and I'm in the same situation, I'm going to get through this too.
Exactly. Well, Dr. Sibrina Collins, it's been such a pleasure to speak with you. And before we close, I want to bring us back to a way that we usually end our episodes. On this show, we focus on meaning and how people can discover their purpose and use it to guide their life and career decisions. So we ask our guests to give a permission slip to our listeners, which is really advice on how do you find your meaning and live from it. But we have to give ourselves permission to do that. So hence the permission slip. So I'm wondering what you would offer in terms of a permission slip for our listeners today, and the rest of us about how we find our meaning and use that to guide us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. This was a wonderful conversation. And regarding the permission slip, I'll say this, that it is your happiness is your responsibility, not your job, not your career, not your relationships. It's your responsibility. But I'll also add this, that I think, just because you come up with an idea and you share it with someone and they don't necessarily think it's a good idea or they don't get it, that doesn't mean that it's not a good idea. You should pursue it anyway and take a risk. And that can potentially lead to a wonderful career opportunity for you.
That's a great permission slip. Thank you so much, Dr. Sibrina Collins, Executive Director of the Marburger STEM Center at Lawrence Tech University. It's been a pleasure to speak with you, and thanks for being on the Make Meaning podcast. Thanks for listening to the Make Meaning podcast with Lynn Galadner. You can find us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. If you like what you've heard here, join us over at makemeaning.org to discover how you can add more meaning to your life. And hey, if you like our conversations, please subscribe and share this episode with the meaningful people in your world.